Good evening. Thank you for coming to the second in our series, Preserving Hartsville's Water Supplies by Being Water Wiser. Tonight, just to get started, the Hartsville Conservation Commission Water Witchers and Wizard are going to be handling the program tonight. We have Jenny and Abby and Nancy and Wendy and Ann is over here and Tony in the back. So we're going to walk through the program tonight, and it's going to be divided into two sections. But before we get started, just because we want this to be interactive, we want you to be able to ask some questions, but we're trying to keep the time to about an hour. So as we go through different sections, we will be asking the ladies over here talking on the section. We'll be indicating where's the appropriate time to get some input. And if we don't handle it at all, and you still have questions at the end, we'll try and take those questions. Also tonight, we are live streaming on YouTube, and we've had a number of people sign up, and they are able to watch the program as well. For those folks, if you are able to, you can put something in the chat, and we'll take a look at the end to answer those questions. I lost my notes, so I'm trying to think if I forgot something. But I think we should just get started. We're going to start off with
her presentation.
Mr. Mark Ireland.
Jessica used the factor of 55 gallons per person per day for typical water use in Maine. And when she looked at what the impact of 5,000 year-round residents might be on the supply of groundwater in that fractured bedrock aquifer, she multiplied the census number of 5,000 year-round residents times the 55 gallons per person to estimate how much water gets taken out of the aquifer at this point on average. And she did note that, that there are differences in how much water you get in various locations, how much get taken out because of how many houses there are. But that was sort of her starting point for the discussion. So as we got to the question and answer session, it struck me that although there's been over 500 new houses built in Hartsville over the last 25 years or so, the year-round population has essentially not changed. According to the census in 2019, there were about 5,200 year-round residents. The current population estimate from the census in 2024 is there's a little over 5,000 residents. So if you think in terms of the water use per capita, that suggests that even though there's been a fairly large amount of residential development, there hasn't really been, on that basis of that per capita water use, probably a significant withdrawal of the groundwater. And then I asked Jessica about whether there had been any changes in the amount of water use per capita, and she really didn't answer that question directly, but then she talked about how important for the town, as it thinks about where it goes and what it does next, to really focus on the issue of water conservation, to try and reduce how much water each household, each person is using and taking out of the aquifer.
Wow.
Yes, we thought that Mark's answer to the question, to the thought about how much water do we have available, and his explanation was a good place for us to start, because we know we don't know exactly how much we have. So tonight we're going to talk about, we know it's not unlimited, and we're going to talk about how to preserve what we have and best live with it. So,
Her presentation.
how come that didn't work? So I'm going to move over to, if we look at water sense, there are some water conservation strategies. EPA's criteria, they basically say we get 46 inches of rain approximately per year. Of that, about 50% with the little words on everything, is lost to runoff, and 16 inches is lost to transevaporation that just goes back into the sky, which leaves us like 7 inches of that 46 inches for us to use. And that's just about 1/14 of the total. So just keeping that in mind, we know that this is about how much we get, and we're going to work with that 7 inches that you are using for your drinking water. Oh, now it's coming up. So we're going to move on to the first part of the program, which is harvesting water. Now, this is really good because one of the most ancient ways here in town to harvest water was with cisterns. What you see up on the screen is Two Colors Farm, which is one of the original farms in Harpswell, many generations. And they showed me the cistern that they use to water their cattle. It's out in the yard, and I talked to them 2 years ago when we were having the drought. And he mentioned when we had that one really big rainstorm, the cistern filled up completely just from that rainstorm. And it happens to be constructed right in a swale that happened to be there naturally. It's all rock covered and rock walls that were put in, still in use for probably 4 or 5 generations. So as I started to talk to people in town, I realized we have quite a few cisterns. Well, quite a few. Over on Orr's Island, on Wilkes Way, there are cisterns, excuse me, cisterns underneath cottages. And this picture is in Ann Wilkes' basement. Or it's sort of a basement because it's, you know, it's just raised over the rocks. And they have a cistern there, and their other cabin has a cistern. And then we have some more ambitious ones. But before I go on to that one, I was talking to a number of people in town, and Chip Black was telling me about the cisterns they used when he was building. So there's a number of them in town in various sizes. They can be as simple as, not simple, but as elaborately built and for longevity as something in the ground, or is similar to this ambitious home system that's over near Wendy Batson's house, where the gentleman there rigged up a cistern outside his house during the last time we were not having a lot of rain. And he collects rain from his entire roof, and he stores it and pumps it into the garden. A very elaborate rain barrel.
2,200 gallons.
Wow, 2,200 gallons. These are some pictures of just some white plastic type tanks that you've seen throughout town, I think. Perhaps on the back of a truck next to one of the restaurants, like Sun Drenched, that bring their drinking water in because they don't have enough. So I think people who have lived in this town for a long time have figured out a way to live with what we have. Although you have to supplement it sometimes, like the Merritt House as well. And then we can move along here. We're smaller than cisterns. We have rain barrels. And here's a couple of rain barrels. And we have a future rain barrel right here, which is a bait barrel with some plumbing accoutrements that you can use to make it for about $15. And tonight, Tony Barrett very nicely has put a couple together and brought them here for you to look at. And am I supposed to do anything more with that right here?
Just remind people that we need to have their names and addresses.
Right. I don't know if it was mentioned, but you filled out some little tags, were asked to put it in the cauldron. Well, that's going to be a door prize at the end. One of you gets to take this home with you. So we will do the drawing at the end. Going on, here's some ways to take advantage of water that's collected. Many of you have humidifiers in your house. What to do with the water rather than carrying it out by bucketfuls. This system was put into effect where it's elaborately taking the water and pumping it outdoors. Many of you now have heat pumps. Similar to the old-fashioned air conditioners, they let water out. There's a pipe that's showing water that's being taken out of the air. You could get ambitious and connect that to a rain barrel, just like connecting water from your gutters. We're going to move on now and talk about conserving water inside. And Wendy?
Ready. So the first rule in conserving water is don't lose it in the first place. I get to talk about leaks. Will you put the next chart up? Next slide. If you look at this chart, you can see leaks account for about 12% of what we estimate we lose every year. They're sort of tricky leaks because they look insignificant and they're easy to ignore. And you tell yourself they're going to be simple to fix most of the time, but not always. I am reminded that a couple of weeks ago, a beloved friend was visiting us from California, and he walked down the stairs from taking his morning shower, and he looked at my husband and said, "Bob, you still have not fixed the leak in the upstairs shower that I told you about a year ago." And if looks could kill, the guy would have died on the spot, because that particular leak is embedded in a tile wall in the unreconstructed part of the house, and it's built in about 1967. And it's really easy to ignore. But out of general curiosity, I went up later and put the drain down and waited 7 days and realized there was about 6 inches of water in the bathtub at the end of that week. Just saying. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates that we probably lose around 10,000 gallons of water a year from leaks. That's the equivalent of about 270 loads of laundry. It adds up really fast. So one of the things we suggest is, hard as it may be and painful, is take a 10 or 15 minute walk through your house, inside and out, and look and see what you find. I did it and I was a little bit shocked. Yeah, no, I got it. Can you do the next slide? Next one? Ah, there we go. And in that exploratory walk, what you're going to mostly discover is that the most common types of leaks are all from gaskets and valves. And it's going to be dripping faucets, dripping hoses, worn toilet flappers. That's generally what's going to be causing the leak. The sobering fact is a shower leaking 10 drips per minute wastes about 500 gallons a year. And a leaky faucet that's dripping at the rate of 1 drip per second burns through 3,000 gallons per year. The most serious of all are those toilets. If you can hear them running, or do a test that Nancy's going to explain about in a minute, that can take up to about 950 gallons a week. During the drought that just affected us a couple of years ago, those were really serious numbers. The type of leaks are usually pretty easy to fix, my upstairs shower aside, requiring simple hardware, so I'm told. I've never done it, I gotta confess. But, and not too many complicated tools. Next one? Nope, we went too far. Stay right there. And then finally, the other really big obvious culprit is quite often outside garden hoses. And those of us that have a lot of outside garden hoses quickly realize that that little drip, 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 drip or run, because of this darn things keep doing that, adds up really fast. Just last week, out of curiosity, that's my faucet in the lower left, I'll confess right up. I stuck a bucket under there and it filled a 5-gallon bucket. It filled in under 15 minutes. I did distribute it, but it did make me go get a pliers and tighten the darn thing up. And any other examples that people can think of leaks that you wish you hadn't ignored? Think about it and share, because we will. Finally, I just want to say the Environmental Protection Agency has a very useful website embedded within the EPA website called WaterSense. You'll hear that repeatedly over the course of the evening, because not only is it hooked to all kinds of useful, not unuseful, useful YouTube videos on how to fix the various kinds of things we're talking about, it also has a list of appliances that use water and will tell you which are the most efficient and use the least. If you're having to install a new appliance, it's a good first stopping place to see what you might want to purchase. Finally, the only other thing I want to mention, because Tony was pointing out to me, going back to the various kinds of cisterns or other water tanks you might do, we put up, the slide we put up actually gives prices that are just taken from local hardware stores. But one of us checked on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. There's a lot of this stuff floating out here. Don't feel like you gotta buy one new.
Hi, I'm Nancy West, and I have the pleasure of talking with you tonight about toilets, showers, and faucets. And I wish my mother were alive to hear me say that, because I never thought that I would say I get to talk with you about toilets, showers, and faucets. Wendy's already talked about leaking, and she mentioned toilets. And I just want to point out to you that if you have a leaky toilet, that's completely wasted water. And a toilet uses 24% of your household water, your indoor household water. A quarter of your water goes to toilets. We know this because the American Water Work Association has done a study in 2016 of almost 24,000 houses. These were houses on municipal systems, so there were water meters measuring how much water came into the house in a year, and they also measured how much hot water was used. This study was originally done in 1999, so there's a comparison between 1999 and 2016. Water use has actually decreased, mostly because of improvements in appliances. This study is being updated now. The results should come out next year, so that'll be fairly interesting. But I'll begin with leaky toilets. And so the question is, how do you know if your toilet leaks? And how many of you have ever heard a toilet running? Exactly. If it's running and it's not supposed to be, that means that you have a leak. Apparently, however, there are also silent leaks in toilets, and so the suggestion is that about every 6 months or so, you take a couple of drops of food coloring, which is why there's food coloring on the back of our toilet. Take something like blue or green and drop a couple of drops in the tank, not in the bowl, but in the tank. Wait about 15 minutes and come back, and if the bowl has that color in it, it means that you have a leak, probably with the flapper valve. And I am embarrassed to say that in preparing for this, I was sitting at my computer and I heard the toilet in the guest bathroom running. And 2 nights ago, I ran a leak. And as a result of that, my husband, who will raise his hand, went to Lowe's on the way to this talk, and we will be replacing the flapper valve tomorrow. So it's a fairly easy thing to do. If you're not comfortable, I'm sure you have a neighbor who knows how to do it, or a family member, and there are also YouTube videos. All you have to do is Google toilet valve, flapper valve replace, and you'll see somebody teaching you how to do it. All right, so that's what you can do about it. If you have a leaky toilet, you can replace the flapper valve. It's an inexpensive fix. Jeff, how much? $18. You can also buy a whole new toilet. so go with the cheap thing first. Right, so that's how to fix a leak, because that's wasted water. Now let's talk about frugal flushing, and that's a term I came across on the internet. Again, the single thing that uses the most water is your toilet. So you want to be frugal about it. In this study of 24,000 households, the number of 5 flushes per day came to the fore. That's the average number of flushes per person per day. And the average number of gallons per flush is 2.6 gallons per flush. But that mostly depends upon the age of the toilet. So how do you tell with your own toilets how much water you use per flush? If you have a modern toilet, you will see a stamp between the toilet seat and the back of the tank. And that's, if you look in the left-hand corner, Mary Ann is going to point to below where it says Kohler on the left-hand picture. Yeah, right there. That tells us that our toilet uses 1.6 gallons per flush, and that's been the standard since 1993. If you have a newer toilet, if you have a brand new toilet, for instance, and purchased a WaterSense toilet, which is the symbol over there on the right, then your toilet uses 1.28 gallons per flush or less. If you can't find that stamp, then look inside the toilet, either inside the tank or on the underneath side of the lid, and see if it tells you how much water you have if you use per flush. If you can't find that information, you're operating in the dark. Except that we know that toilets before 1982 used something like 5 to 7 gallons per flush, sometimes as many as 8. From 82 to 1992, 3.5 gallons per flush was the standard. 1992-93, it dropped to 1.6, and the new modern ones use as little as 1.28 gallons per flush. There were complaints in the early 90s that people were having to flush multiple times to get sufficient rinsing. So that's how you know how much your toilet uses in each flush. So what can you do to reduce the amount of water that you use? So what would you do to reduce the amount of water you would use in your toilet? Stop flushing, flush less, that's right. Tim, what did you say?
Put rocks in the bowl.
Put rocks in the bowl, or...
It just reduces the amount of water that you can take. Put rocks in it. I have rocks in all my toilets and flush mine.
In the tank or the bowl?
In the tank.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I've heard brick and rocks. Bricks are kind of a 1970s solution. Apparently bricks degrade, rocks will not degrade as much unless they're sandstones, and that would be a problem, or shale. And there is a commercial product you can buy for $15 or less. It's the blue thing that says toilet tank bag. Apparently you can buy it in big box stores. It's relatively inexpensive. It looks like a water bottle. You fill it with water and hang it between the upper fill line and the lower fill line, and it saves you about ½ gallon per flush. And I gather they're like on the order of $10 to $15 each. And the problem with the brick is that if it degrades, then it's going to irritate your flapper valve, and then you might have a leak. There's another device I didn't know about. It's called a water diverter. It's the green plastic thing up there. Apparently you can get them for less than $1, and you put them between the flexible hose for the intake and the overflow, which is the rigid vertical tube. Your goal is to have the bowl finish filling at the same time that the tank finishes filling. So you can put it in several different positions in order to try to balance out the fill rate, not the fill rate, but the fill time between the tank and the bowl. I guess if one fills before the other, then you're exhausting the extra water. So those are two relatively inexpensive things that you can do. And if you decide to try one of these fill cycle diverters, that's an inexpensive gamble on your part, like an 89-cent gamble on your part. You can search on your search engine for YouTube retrofit your toilet. That's YouTube retrofit your toilet, and you can see a video about how to use it, where to place it, how to use it. And that will also save about ½ gallon per flush. So with the toilet tank bank and the water diverter, you can save a gallon per flush. All right? Let's see if there's anything else. No, that's it. Oh, yes, we're going to have call and response. Someone said, use your toilet less. Yes. I had a college professor who purchased a house so that he could go outside any door to pee. And I think a lot of us could do that in Hartsville. But from the 70s, what was the phrasing? If it's yellow, if it's brown, there you go. All right, next up, showers. This is in the pie chart, showers are 20%, so it's the green chunk there. Showers use up 20% of your household use. From this study of 24,000 homes, we know now that the average shower length is 7.8 minutes. Standard shower heads use 2.5 gallons per minute, so an average shower would be 19.5 gallons per shower, almost 20 gallons per shower. If you were to replace that with a WaterSense certified shower head, again, look for the label that says WaterSense, you would reduce the 2.5 gallons per minute rate to 2 gallons per minute. So that means an average shower would, instead of using okay, if you switch, I didn't put down the original volume. If you switched, you would save 1,425 gallons per person per year, and that works out to 91 showers. Right? So if you decrease your shower head by half a gallon per minute, by using a WaterSense shower head, you would save the equivalent of 91 showers a year over a conventional shower head. All right? So how do you know how much water you use? Well, if you look at the join of the shower head and the hose, our shower head tells us that our shower uses 1.75 gallons per year. So if you have a modern shower head, per minute, 1.75 gallons per minute. Thank you. So if you have a modern shower head, the volume, the rate of flow might be written on it. If you don't have a modern shower head, then stick a bucket under it for a minute and measure how much water you get out of it. Use a 5-gallon bucket and then just measure it, and that'll tell you what your flow rate is. So what could you do to reduce shower water usage? Yes?
One thing that worked very well for me is to put 5-minute timer on the hot water side of the shower.
Thank you.
I'm learning after.
That's good. So his trick is to put a 5-minute timer on the hot water side, and that gets him out of the shower after 5 minutes. Yes?
Still is.
Yes? His was to join a gym in Brunswick and shower there. Also good if you're, well, we'll talk about that later. Yes? Take a shorter shower. Some people suggest that if you like to sing in the shower, you find a short song and then sing that short song and be out by the end of the song. I know one thing, that our shower is far from the hot water heater, so we waste a lot of water getting hot water from the water heater to the shower. If we take back-to-back showers, then you are not wasting that water. I know someone here, a member of the select board, who collects the water as it runs, until it runs hot, and she uses that to water her garden. So the water doesn't have to be wasted. Yes?
Like the pump, you put it between the hot and the cold, turn it on until the hot gets hot, then pumps the water back into the cold water side. You waste nothing.
That's an elaborate system, and maybe you can answer people's questions afterwards?
Sure.
Okay. Yes?
2-part shower. Part 1, wet. 3-part. Part 2, soap. Part 3, turn back on and rinse. A little harsher in the winter. Yes. But called the Navy shower.
That's a Navy shower or a sailor shower. And how many of you have spent time on boats? Like overnight on boats? So you're used to conserving water because fresh water is a precious commodity on a boat. Yes?
2.5 gallon showers, what I take now.
Okay, 2.5 gallon shower. All right, and if you camp, you have the same problem. All right. Something that some of my friends have been talking about, they happen to live alone, but they sometimes skip showers and just do spot cleaning. If you want to have a shower head, again, a new shower head that's water efficient, I want to remind you of WaterSense. And then baths, some of us like taking baths. I suggest that you take a shower in the bathtub with the drain closed and see how much water you use in a shower, and then make a decision as to whether or not you want to take a bath. All right, last but not least, faucets. Faucets in your kitchen and your bathroom use 19% of your water, so almost as much as showers. We know more about bathroom faucets than kitchen faucets, although apparently studies are being done now on kitchen faucets. In general, they run about 2.2 gallons per minute. WaterSense standards, by putting a WaterSense aerator on them, drop from 2.2 to 1.5 gallons per minute. So, that's an easy piece to go buy at a hardware store. You just put an aerator on the bottom of your spigot. What can you do? You can shut the water off when you're not actually rinsing your hands or brushing your teeth, washing out your toothbrush. You can use an electric tea kettle if running hot water in your bathroom sink is an issue. Just take an electric tea kettle in there and make a half a kettle of hot water. You don't have to run it all the way from your hot water heater to your bathroom. If you want to know what your flow rate is, again, stick a bucket underneath it and time a minute and then measure how much you got. By doing that, I learned that our kitchen faucet, which is right there, this was the experiment in action. I was using the spray nozzle. We get 0.9 gallons per minute using our spray nozzle. So the shower sense is 1.5 gallons per minute. We do better than that with the spray nozzle. So I recommend actually sticking a mixing bowl underneath and see what your flow rate is. All right, now last but not least is the issue of washing dishes by hand as opposed to using a dishwasher. And in the Conservation Commission, we've had several discussions about this, and I was highly skeptical of everybody saying dishwashers are more efficient. Dishwashers might be more efficient if they're modern. They use 3.2 gallons per flush, and they heat the water in the dishwasher, right? 3.2 gallons per load, per wash, thank you. I have my peanut gallery here. But if you have an older model, and it doesn't say on it Energy Star is the energy equivalent of WaterSense. If it doesn't say Energy Star on it, you could be using as much as 10 to 15 gallons per load in your dishwasher. We have no idea, nor do we have any way of knowing how much our dishwasher uses. And there are only 2 of us in the house, and we try to be frugal. A senior scientist at Procter & Gamble did a study and found that people, on average, if they're hand washing dishes, run the faucet for 11 minutes to wash their dishes. So 11 minutes times a standard 2.2 gallons per minute works out to be 24 or 25 gallons to wash, say, dinner dishes, which seems ridiculous to me. But they're running the water for 11 minutes. They could do a Navy dishwash, fill up a big pot that they've used, like if they've used a mixing bowl, like to make the oatmeal raisin butterscotch chip cookies back there, and put some soap in that, wash your dishes in that, stack them, and then rinse them all at once. You can use significantly less. So if you have a modern dishwasher, fill it up, scrape the food debris off, don't rinse it off, run it loaded, and you'll use 3.2 gallons for probably a couple days worth of dishes. If you don't know that it's a modern Energy Star dishwasher, then think carefully about what's the most efficient way to clean your dishes. If you were aboard a boat or if you were camping, how would you do it? Make your decisions thoughtfully. But yes, if you have a modern dishwasher, it is more energy efficient and water efficient to use your dishwasher. And I know I've gone over time, but I don't really care. This is fun. Ann Caldwell is going to tell you about washing machines.
Thank you, Nancy. Is that on? Can you hear me? Okay, good. Washing machines. This is our final topic for the evening. Up higher? Like that? Yes. Oh, I got it. Good. Unfamiliar thing. We are all familiar with the older model washing machines. Top load, central post that agitates. What we may not be familiar with is how much water those washing machines use. 40 gallons or upwards for one load. It's an amazing amount of water. The newer models, pictured here, use between 10 and 20 gallons per load. Of some note, front-loading modern washers use 25% less water than a top-load modern washer with many water-saving features. A good question that many people ask is, how can you possibly get your clothes clean with so little water? The answer is an ancient method: friction. Less water, more friction between the clothes when the clothes are agitated. Think of your grandmother's washing board. Friction. So they do a good job. Now, most of us are not in the game to buy a new washing machine. That is a very expensive proposition. So what I would suggest is, when you are in the situation of needing to buy a new washer, usually when the old one crumps out irretrievably, please go to the Energy Star site. They have an amazing list of all currently available models, and it's easy to compare the water and power-saving features of any model you might want to choose. For those of us who are going to continue to use our washing machines, there are a number of habits that we can adopt to reduce the water use, even if we have a modern machine that doesn't use much water. We have compiled a list of that, but actually it would be much better if you all told us your ideas about how you conserve water doing laundry. Takers? Okay, I'll recite the list very quickly.
So no one in here has a foot-operated 3.5 gallon washing machine. No electricity. You clean smaller batches of clothes. It's real easy, and you're not even using electricity. I have one, and it's fantastic.
I'd love to hear more about that.
It's just a foot-operated. There's sailboaters are using them now, big time, on the foredeck. They even use seawater. Sometimes they use salt water, which is, I haven't done salt water yet. They're on the internet, and if you're living alone, you don't need these big,
Yeah.
you don't need these big washing machines. And then
That's
hang
for
your
sure.
clothes- And then hang your clothes on the line when you can, obviously.
Great.
And I got one, and then 2 years ago, whatever it was, remember when we went through that 2-year period where there was very little rain? We ran our well dry.
When our darling 4 children, and now 4 about to be 5 grandchildren under the age of 7 were all there. And we realized 2 things had happened. Young kids are getting a lot of clothes dirty, and so my children were just running the washing machine for their loads from about 7 in the morning till about 7 o'clock at night. So we had a little family meeting and said you could combine all the baby clothes and do it at once. And the other big one is it is probably not necessary to wash your towels every single time you take a shower. You could just dry them as opposed to washing them. And then once the well filled back up, I mean, those 2 things alone made all the difference in the world. Plus, when you run out of water with 13 people in the house, they learn fast.
I've had a discussion with several women I know who have, and I could have this with men as well, several women I know who have many people visiting in the summer. Is that true? Yes. And somebody has said they ask their families to bring their own sheets and towels and take them home dirty. I have suggested that maybe they take them to a laundromat in Brunswick and do their sheets and towels all at once and use Brunswick water.
Any others?
I have a heresy type solution. You don't have to wash the clothes, some of them, every time you wear them. Sometimes you can wear them for a day, or 2 days, or even a few days at a time. It helps.
If you're neat.
I think we've covered a lot of this, Mary Ann.
Yeah, I think we're going to move on. We have gotten to the part of the show for the raffle. And in the back, I hope you had a chance to take a look at the rain barrel. I think the gentleman that's walking over there, he's getting ready to pull it out of the hat, isn't he? Whoops, you gotta put yours in first. Okay, well, why don't you take it?
Oh, you may take it, sure.
Sure, we're gonna put it up there. You can talk right into that microphone over there. Paige, very good, Paige. Very good, and I think it's already put together, Paige. Great. Well, I think we've sort of towards the end of the official meeting. Jim, are you able to see if any put any questions in the chat?
No questions in the chat.
Okay, great.
We also didn't ask them, so maybe there will be now.
All right. So were there any other areas that you, we gotta get you on our committee.
Well, I just want to ask the group here has a well that doesn't work. How many? Mine's been going for 4 years.
Oh,
I tank water from the top.
okay.
It's one of these 275 gallon tanks behind my car.
Okay.
And I conserve water like you would do it.
I'll bet you.
So,
Here are the two of them.
you bring water, you tank water.
In dry years, our well runs dry, and my husband actually works for the Brunswick Thompson Water District, so
It's good water, isn't it?
we bring the water home.
It's
to
actually
the
the source of the water where the swimming pool guys pull up.
Yeah.
Big tankers, and I see them all the time. That water in the swimming pool, when you put your head in the top of the 275, when it's full, might as well be swimming pool water. Just, it's as much as it would, you could fill a swimming pool and be all set for the first 5 days. I'm telling you.
So we learned something interesting from our well guy after we were sort of repeatedly running dry a few years ago. Fortunately, it cost a few dollars. He said in Harpswell, a lot of the decreased well performance is due to iron, especially in certain areas, that gets into the pores, which were mentioned in the last meeting. We had our well hydrofractured, and it solved most of the problem. Yeah, it was not inexpensive.
How much did it cost?
It was something like $2,800 to $3,100.
I got quoted $7,000 from the outfit in Massachusetts.
Oh, no, this was a local company that most folks use, Temple. It's different from Temple, this is Bird.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It worked.
Yeah. Jay?
I have a question about rain barrels. Do I have to empty them in the winter?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
It'll burst, yeah.
You actually have a choice, you can empty them or replace them.
I wondered if anybody had had experience doing gray water systems like
It's
extract.
not legal in the town.
Oh, it's not?
prohibited. One of the mistakes we made when we voted in the zoning package in 68.
Interesting point. That is, it would have to be approved by the state, but I think there are some conversations happening that maybe with the right regulation and time. This isn't going to happen in the next year, but it might happen, in the near future.
Abby? Mary, could you repeat the question? Yeah, what? Louder.
The question was, do we do anything with gray water in Harpswell? And the answer was that it's not allowed by the state.
You're not allowed to dump gray water on your property.
You can connect it as part of your water system. I think that's how it works.
So your laundry.
It has to go through the septic. So in other words, you have,
Recycling the water collecting rainwater, putting it in a tank, and then plumbing the house, to flush the toilets, take showers. You couldn't do that.
no.
No, you can't do it, that's the odd part. If you take the rainwater that would go on your land, put it in a tank, send it through your plumbing system, they don't allow you to connect it to a drain or outlet to water your garden. It's crazy. I didn't make
And
that
that's a
up.
law, that's a law of the books.
When we adopted zoning in 68, we chose a package that had one thing that we were interested in, which was we had to have 2 acres per household for a building lot. And that was to stop a guy that wanted to put 3,000 housing units in and force the town to make a water plant and a sewage plant to supply that. And it would have been about $78,000 per person at the time. So despite objecting to zoning for like 50 years, you finally got through.
So there is a number. If the town ever got to a population of X, which I think is 26,000 people, 26 to 30, we immediately have problems because we have to do this.
And I think,
$78,000.
Yeah,
whatever that number is, which is crazy.
we're getting into a lot of detail that we don't have information on, but I think it's something that going forward is worth spending more time and getting more information on.
I don't think we're ever going to, population of Hartsville is not going to see 25.
No, probably not.
20,000, so we don't have to worry. So
And how would we,
we're all set.
so I'm not even, yeah. But gray water may happen as part of your septic in sometime in the fair.
I'm building a rain collection system off my standing metal seam roof, which will go into my cistern in my basement. I'm going to filter it in the shower, and I'm even going to make it drinking water. So I'm not going to need a well. I don't have one, so that's where I'm going.
Very good. These are some interesting thoughts that came out of this. If you have more that were not covered tonight, and you can always,
Well, you can finish, I just have it right here.
okay. I was going to say that you can always send your questions to the email that we have on all our posters and everything, which is conservation@townharpswellme.us. It's the same email address that the town uses, but if you address it to conservation, it comes to the Conservation Commission. A couple other really quick things, Laura, and then I'll get back to you. We printed out the handouts tonight because we managed to put QR codes on many of the sites that you might want to check out, like WaterSense and Energy, yeah. The interesting thing on the energy piece is that not only saves water, it also saves electric energy. So you get a double whammy, you might say, double benefit on Energy Star products. Laura.
Give her the mic. Back to electricity. Give her the mic.
Scary.
Back to electricity. I hope all of you know that CMP has a night rate yes, it is, they don't advertise it. But if you are a night person, from 8 at night to 7 in the morning, you pay less than half the kilowatt charge or whatever. It's worked beautifully. And you can see on your bill, I've been doing it for a while now, you can see on your bill how you do most of your things at night. After 8 o'clock, it's really not too late. So anyway, that's an aside, but I have a quick question. Or you?
If you want to do that, you have to contact CMP, and they have to come and change your metering system. You can't just do it.
No.
You have to work with them.
Yeah, of course. They don't advertise it. But they're working on their infrastructure all the time. So I highly recommend that. There's also a special rate, I guess, for heat pump people, because more and more heat pumps, but they won't let me do the heat pump and the night rate. So, good old CMP.
You can't do solar.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? Okay, so we have some things to change, but my quick question in regard to her question about rain barrels. I've had rain barrels that I've procured from, towns, whatever, and they disintegrate after a while. And so I always drain those at night, for winter. But I'm wondering about, I use a bait barrel now, and I wonder if that's a thicker, whether they've made rain barrels thicker, because it sounds like the one that page 1 is maybe a thicker material.
Yes.
And could that last for the winter? That's what's mine.
It's freezing expansion rate.
It's the expansion rate of the water.
No, the damage to the sun damage, UV kills. So if you have it, if it sits in the same spot and it gets the same hours of sun every day, it's going to get degraded by the UV. Wow.
And the damage in the wintertime from freezing, the ice in the barrel will get bigger than the barrel.
We can't hear you.
And it cracks it down the side.
This is getting to be really interesting. We need to do more. We have to have a better conversation on this at another time. I think, just so we don't run too late tonight, we should wrap up at this time. I do want to let you know, I think I did tell you that on the handouts, there are QR codes that will give you more detail on WaterSense and Energy Star. And I think what else I forgot. I do want to tell you that we know that vegetation is a very important asset to help us conserve the water that's coming down. Look for our next program in late spring or early summer that's going to talk about going outside and talking about ways you can save water on your property by even utilizing some of the natural features that are part of your property. So we hope to see you come at that time. We'll be sending out more information when the time comes. Did I forget anything, guys? Oh, that's right. I did forget something. We do have the maps over there. I don't know if you had a chance to look at them. The state is looking to map unused wells or wells near the shoreline that might be susceptible to saltwater intrusion, especially as sea level rise happens over time. They are starting a project that's on the handout over there. If you are interested in being part of that, you can pick up a handout. Also, we thought it would be a good opportunity because we were talking about drinking water the last time and where it is and where it isn't. If you would like, you could put a dot on the maps that are there, showing approximately where your well is on your property. Would give us an idea because there's no really large database that gives us that information at this point, but it would give us kind of a bird's eye view of where there's a concentration of water in homes. With that, thank you all for coming.